Hello everyone, back to you in today's second video. We're going to have the GWV Sunday Round Up for today's second video, so it's your usual eclectic mix of this and that for your Sunday afternoon viewing pleasure. Actually, we're going to split it into two halves for this update. So the first half is going to focus on tomorrow's weather, with risk of some very wet weather down in the southeast. That's been restricted a little bit towards the southeast over the past few model runs, and so it doesn't look like it's pushing as far north and west as was being indicated around 24 hours ago. Consequently, there was a risk of a little bit of snow with this. Consequently, that has been sort of downgraded a little bit as well. I've still got one model that's going for pushing this quite a long way northwards and westwards into the heart of the country, and so that one has a greater snow risk, but generally this is being restricted more towards the east and the southeast at the moment. It's probably going to be a bit of an outcast situation tomorrow morning as to how far north and west this area of low pressure and its rain is going to get. But I'll talk you through all of that, and then we'll get on with the second part of the video, which is going to focus basically on the next week to 10 days. Weather will be improving and starting to warm up as we go through the course of this week. So if you're fed up with all of the cold and gloomy weather that we had over the past few days, we will find better weather arriving later on this week. I'll talk you through all of that as well in today's video. We've also got the solar tracker, which has been updated, so lots to cram in. Let's get on with it. We're going to start off with the facts chart. This will be human interpretation of models by forecasters at the UK Met Office. So this is a fact chart for midday tomorrow, where we've got a deep area of low pressure just to the southeast of the country. Got these weather fronts wrapped around it, so they're bringing heavy, if not torrential rain into the southeast. It's how far north and west these weather fronts get that will determine how far north and west this rain pushes. Notice also there's tightly packed isobars wrapped around this area of low pressure, so it's also very windy. We're going to have winds probably gusting up to 50 miles an hour on the east coast tomorrow. That's reaching gale force. And otherwise just a very windy, wet day for many eastern, southeastern parts of the country. It does look okay in the northwest, so you notice Scotland and Northern Ireland underneath this shallow ridge. So there's going to be quite a nice day with sunny spells, and it will be cold start up there, fairly widespread frost, but once that clears, I think we're going to have quite a nice day with temperatures staging something of a recovery. So let's go through some models then and see how they're handling this wet weather tomorrow. So this is the precipitation type forecast from the weatheroutlook.com. From the GFS model, first of all. So this isn't a high-res model, this is just the standard GFS. Starting at midnight, when we've got heavy rain beginning to head in towards East Anglia and some parts of southeastern England as well. As we go through the course of the night, this is 6 o'clock in the morning, really wet down across the southeast, torrential rain falling there. The rain is just about getting in towards parts of the south and southeast Midlands, but really to the northwest of that it is mostly dry, and that's about as far north as the rain gets. It does push a little bit further northwards through the course of tomorrow morning, so into other parts of the east, southeast Midlands. But the heaviest stuff is for East Anglia and down into the southeast England. Again, torrential rain could well get up 25, maybe 50 millimetres of rain due to the heaviness and persistence of this rain through the course of the morning in the southeast. And then through the afternoon, that rain starts to push back in towards the North Sea. So again, it's East Anglia, southeast England, that's the focus of the rain, but it's starting to become a little bit less intense. Never really gets into the North and West Midlands, certainly doesn't get to Wales, and much of Northern England stays dry. Scotland and Northern Ireland mostly dry, just a few showers in those areas. But rain clings on to that East Anglian coast through the course of tomorrow morning before eventually pulling away. Just a suggestion of a little bit of winteriness overnight, Monday to Tuesday across East Anglia. Probably won't amount to too much, but just a little bit of sleet or wet snow turning up there as the rain pulls away. And then we're watching rain coming in from off the Atlantic as we go through Tuesday and into Wednesday. So that was the GFS. Now this is a high resolution model. This is a high resolution arpège model, again starting at midnight tonight, where we've got the rain into the very far southeast and the east of the East Anglia as well. Let's run through the course of the night. So again, this really is restricting the rain to that very far southeastern corner. It's a little bit further southeast even than the GFS is, generally just East Anglia, South Easting, possibly just up towards southern parts of Lincolnshire being impacted by this wet weather. But essentially it's the southeast that's getting it, with most parts of the country actually getting a dry day through the course of tomorrow. That rain pulls away overnight, Monday into Tuesday, and then more rain starts heading from off the Atlantic Tuesday into Wednesday. This one is the DWD Icon model, again starting at midnight. There's the wet weather across far southeast and southern parts of East Anglia too. Otherwise, most places are looking dry. How far inland does this one get the wet weather? Well, it's probably pushing it a little bit further inland than the upper edge, but generally, again, still restricted to East Anglia, southeast England, just into the far east and southeast of the Midlands, but the North and West Midlands stay mostly dry. Wales, southwest England, mostly dry. Northern England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, mostly dry. Notice very bright colours, greens and yellows there in the southeast. So this, for the southeast, is a significant rain event that's occurring with, again, 25 to 50 millimetres quite widely in that far southeastern corner. So really wet day tomorrow in the far southeast, but not getting quite as far inland. At the moment, this may change because it's been chopping and changing all the way along over the past few days. So there might be one final change when we get tonight's model runs. But at the moment, this isn't pushing quite as far into the Midlands, central southern England, as it looked like it was going to through the course of yesterday morning in particular. It's going quite a long way inland with a lot of these models yesterday morning. Tuesday to Wednesday, we take that wet weather down across the country from off the Atlantic Ocean. Then finally, we've got the Hallam model. So this one is bringing the rain further into the country, and also has a little bit of a snow risk as well. So this is starting at 6 o'clock in the evening, which is interesting because already by 6 o'clock this evening, Hallam is bringing wet weather in towards East Anglia and South East England. Most other models but just be looking at, they don't get this wet weather into the far southeastern corner until around midnight. So it's much quicker in bringing this rain. The Hallam is much quicker in bringing this rain into the far southeast, and then we run through the course of the night. This takes us up to midnight, where it's already pouring with rain, not only across East Anglia and South East England, but also getting it up in towards much of the Midlands, central southern England as well by midnight, much further north and west compared to the other models that I've just been looking at midnight. And then we go through into tomorrow morning, and again it's much further into the country, this model, with this wet weather. And notice this white area appearing down across the South Midlands and into some parts of England. That's the rain turning to snow down across the southeast, and quite heavy as well. So probably, even though it's last day of April, that came off, it would probably be enough for a temporary covering of snow. Very wet sort of type snow, big flake type snow, but probably due to the intensity enough for a little bit of a covering down in the south. Then we go through the course of tomorrow morning, and look how far inland this wet weather is getting. Quite a dramatic difference compared to all of those other models, pushing up even into parts of Wales and Northern England. Again, there is a risk of snow through the course of tomorrow morning down into the Midlands in particular, so the snow risk does transfer northwards. And then it's just a very wet day or very wet afternoon across virtually the whole of England and Wales through the course of tomorrow afternoon, before the rain just gradually starts to pull over towards the east side. As far as we can go is up to midnight on Tuesday. Still wet across the east, rain turning lighter and patchy. Now that's a big difference compared to all of the other models. It's isolated, but I can't find any other model that's going with that solution. Unfortunately, we can't see the Euro 4 this morning at Weather Online because it's not updating for some reason there. So I can't say what that model is showing, but generally most of the other models are not taking this wet weather any way inland as that model is doing. But what I would say is that when we had the beast from the east and we was doing the snow watches, Hallam probably came out best of all the models in terms of predicting the snow distribution, both in terms of the snow shower distribution and those snow events that we got back in the early part of March. So I wouldn't totally discount. I do rate the Herman quite highly, but obviously as it's on its own, it hasn't got any other moral support that we can find. It looks like it's a small risk that we take that wet weather as far inland tomorrow morning as it is doing across virtually the whole of England and Wales, and then, of course, because it's coming further inland, it also has a greater snow risk as it gets up towards parts of the Midlands, for example, tomorrow morning. But most of the models are restricting this to kind of like Lincolnshire down to the Isle of Wight, and anywhere eastwards of that, so particularly East Anglia and southeastern parts of England. I say it will probably be a nowcast type situation to see how far north and west we're going to push this wet weather. Certainly for East Anglia, southeast England and some parts of southern Lincolnshire, it does look as though you're going to get a very, very wet day tomorrow. Easily 25mm rain, probably more than that. Could be up to 50mm in some parts of the southeast, so really quite a significant rain event coming up tomorrow. And obviously, if there's any changes, we'll keep you updated on that later on today. I'm not expecting to do another video about this wet weather, but should the risk of snow particularly increase through the course of tomorrow, in tonight's evening runs, then we'll have to do another update sometime this evening. Right, so let's go on with the rest of the video. We'll have a look at solar activity. So this is solar disk on our side of disk today from solarham.net. Virtually spotless across the whole of the solar disk on our side of the disk. In fact, it is spotless. Solar activity is at very low levels and is expected to remain at very low levels for the next 3 days at least. This is the GWV Sunday Round Up Solar Activity Tracker, updated by our good friend James Atquill up to yesterday. Big thanks to James for updating this and sending it through. So this is where we are right now. So we have dropped down to spotless conditions again. This orange line depicting each day's worth of sunspots. So right now we are spotless on the solar disk. We did have a little bit of a lift up in sunspot numbers around a week or so ago, and so that's actually started to lift the trend lines up a little bit, which is the thick green and the thick red lines. They started to lift up just a little bit over the past week, but I would suspect they'll drop back quite quickly and they'll go back to this very, very minimal level of solar activity that was in earlier in April. Generally, again, we are in a very low level of solar activity now, but the fact we're still getting these little spikes tells us that we probably still haven't reached solar minimum just yet. We're not expecting to reach true solar minimum, until around a year or so's time, but we are at a very, very low level now of solar activity. We'll be keeping the GWV Sunday Round Up Solar Activity Tracker updated over the next few weeks and months, and we are hoping to bring you Solar Sunday, if not in May, certainly into the start of June. So there will be a Solar Sunday update coming up quite shortly within the next few weeks. This is the Arctic Oscillation Observed and Forecast chart. So the black line here tells us where we've been with the Arctic Oscillation. The red line's at the end where GFS models are forecasting the Arctic Oscillation to go. We can go right way back to the start of the year, the beginning of January, with this chart just there. So through January and into the early part of February, the Arctic Oscillation was generally trending into positive territory. We had the southern stratospheric warming that occurred through the early part of February. I think it's around the 9th or the 10th of February that happened. After that, the Arctic Oscillation trended negative, very substantially negative by the time we got through to the end of February into March. It was doing a crash. Remember, this is just an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere. It's not driving anything, just tells you what the atmosphere is doing. So, as a result of the southern stratospheric warming that occurred in the early part of February, we developed a blocking area of high pressure over Scandinavia and the Arctic. That blocking area of high pressure was the factor that forced the Arctic Oscillation into very negative territory. So we had the crash in the Arctic Oscillation through the end of February into early part of March. And then, despite the fact it went a little bit positive with the Arctic Oscillation in the second half of March. Generally, the Arctic Oscillation has been trending negative pretty much from like the middle of February through towards the middle of April. This period here, I think we can say, was more or less, was that little period just there in the second half of March. But more or less, we had like 2 months of pretty negative Arctic Oscillation conditions. That can't be sustained indefinitely, so what's happened now is that we've got into positive territory with the AO. So from around the middle of February, you see the black line is trending up here into positive territory. This is where we are right now, well and truly positive with the Arctic Oscillation, and the GFS ensembles are forecasting the AO to stay positive as well. So this is telling us we're strengthening the Azores high and possibly also strengthening the westerly flow. Arctic Oscillation being positive at this time of year could be a bit of a double-edged sword. If the Azores high, well, the Azores high will be strengthened when the Arctic Oscillation is positive, but it just depends on the exact position of that Azores high. If it's throwing up a ridge into the UK and the west of Europe, and it can actually be a signal for a lot of dry and warm weather. But of course, if the Arctic Oscillation is strengthened but away from us, then because we're strengthening the westerly flow and reducing the blocking signal, we can find ourselves in quite an unsettled pattern through the spring, particularly into the summer, with a positive Arctic Oscillation. But what we can say is that most definitely we are into really very positive territory now with the AO. I would suspect this will remain so through much of May, potentially as well. Have a look at the North Atlantic Oscillation. That's the same idea. So instead of looking at the pressure distribution in the Arctic, this is looking at the pressure distribution in the North Atlantic, particularly between Iceland and the Azores. So again, black line tells where we've been with the AO, the red lines at the end where GFS ensembles are forecasting the North Atlantic Oscillation to go. So through January and into the middle of February, the North Atlantic Oscillation was in positive territory. Then as the Arctic Oscillation went negative, so too did the North Atlantic Oscillation. So we spent most of March, particularly with a negative or neutral to negative North Atlantic Oscillation. Since then, April has seen the North Atlantic Oscillation NAO go positive again. That's where we are right now, in positive territory with the NAO. And again, you'll see that GFS ensembles are forecasting the NAO to go very positive, highly positive NAO condition as we go into the first half of May. So both of the indexes, the AO and the NAO, are going positive through the first half of May. Are going to be positive, staying positive through the first half of May. This is telling us that we will be strengthening the Azores high. And if we throw that ridge in from the Azores high into west of Europe, we can expect probably quite a bit of dry and warm weather. The exact position of the Azores ridge will, of course, depend exactly what is going to happen. So let's do some forecasting. This is the GFS temperature and precipitation ensemble chart for London. The red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for London. So you see at the moment it's quite chilly, and it's going to be really going below average, quite cold, as we go through into tomorrow. But once that's out of the way, the trend is actually to lift up the upper air temperature. So through the week, we see this gradual warming trend until we arrive at the end of the week and next weekend. Dates on the bottom. So that's May Day, Bank Holiday Monday just there, 7th of May. And by then, we've gone quite above average in terms of these upper air temperatures. So a definite warm-up taking place there over the coming week. After that, however, it's probably only going to be short-lived. It's very similar to the warm-up that we had like 10 days ago. It looks like it's quite short-lived. So after that, most of the GFS ensemble members are dropping down again, returning back towards, or maybe even going a bit below, the 30-year upper air temperature average. As far as precipitation is concerned, well, look at these rainfall spikes that we see on this graph for tomorrow. So that's sort of the torrential rain that we're going to have in the southeast tomorrow, and it really is going to be very, very wet down in the southeast tomorrow. But once that's out of the way, that's Wednesday's rain. Once those days round away, there is definitely a drying trend appearing here. So a lot of dry weather as we're going into the end of the week and through the bank holiday weekend. Looks like we're timing this just right to get string together like 3, 4, maybe 5 days of dry, fine, or mostly dry, fine and warm weather, and coinciding it, would you believe, with a bank holiday weekend. We have got the next bank holiday weekend update coming up this evening, by the way. And then it's going to the second week of May, just signs that a few precipitation spikes are coming back, but of course that's a long way off. It's in the unreliable time frame, so I think we have to be cautious about that and wait and see. This is how the surface temperatures are looking for London. So we've got 10 degrees Celsius just here, 0 degrees Celsius is down there, and plus 20 degrees Celsius is just there. Really cool to even cold over the next couple of days, well below 10 degrees Celsius tomorrow. Probably no better than around 5 degrees in London in that torrential rain. After that, you see that the surface temperatures are lifting up. It's a gradual process, but through the week, those temperatures are lifting up. So by the time we get through to bank holiday weekend, we're peaking with temperatures at around 20 degrees Celsius, maybe just a little bit more than that, before again definite signs that those temperatures are cooling down again as we go into the second week of May. So just timing this just perfect for the bank holiday weekend, then quite soon after that probably cooling things down and turning them more unsettled once again. Temperature anomalies the week ahead, the 29th of April to 7th of May, look like that, coming out a little bit cooler than average still. We'll carry on looking at these through the week and expect to see these trending warmer over the next few days of updates. Precipitation anomalies look like that. So, quite interesting. The north-west of the country, Scotland and Northern Ireland, coming out a bit wetter than average, as is the far southeast of England. And then we get this much drier period, where it is drier than average for our precipitation anomaly from the 29th of April through to 7th of May, through northern England, Wales, and down into southwestern parts of England as well. Over in America, things are beginning to recover with the temperature, so temperature anomalies for much of the United States, particularly the central states, where it was really cold a couple of weeks ago, now warmer than average. Still looking rather chilly down in the far southeast. In the southeastern corner of America, still a bit colder than average there, but many parts of the states are now reverting into warmer conditions, and a lot of dry weather as well. It does vary, of course, from state to state, but most parts of America coming out a little bit drier than average, particularly both southern and southeastern states. So this is how the GFS is looking for tomorrow then. We've got deep area of low pressure just to our southeast, bringing down this northeasterly wind, so it looks pretty grim to say the least. From the southeast, going to be very wet there, otherwise not too bad in the north. We go through to Tuesday, and that low pressure is moving up the North Sea, clearing away. Then we're looking at low pressure coming in from the Atlantic. So that brings another bout of quite wet weather, nowhere near as intense as Monday's rain will be, but does bring quite a bit of wet weather as we go through into Wednesday, into the middle part of the week. And then beyond that, we see that the weather is turning a little bit more unsettled, a little bit more settled as we get through into the second half of next week. Oh, sorry about that, I just got a little bit distracted by something outside. So we'll carry on through to the second half of the week with the GFS. So once you get that low pressure Wednesday out of west, we're beginning to get this little ridge starting to build up from the southwest, and that's a sign of the Azores High beginning to make its move. So that's how things looking on Friday. Still quite unsettled in the north, but the Azores High is starting to ridge into the south, and then this Azores High strengthens as we go through to Saturday, and look at that, by Sunday, a week away, we are under an area of high pressure on this latest run of the GFS, and we're beginning to bring the wind in from an easterly direction as well, or a southeasterly direction. So much drier, much warmer weather developing at the end of the coming week and into the bank holiday weekend, and that ridge sticks around into bank holiday Monday. It's weakening for the north on bank holiday Monday, turning a little bit more unsettled up there, but for England and Wales, still just about under that area of high pressure. But as I said, quite quickly after the bank holiday weekend, it looks like we start to pull this high pressure back away from us again. the Azores Ridge pulls back into middle of the Atlantic, and that starts to allow weather fronts and areas of low pressure to return from the north and west. So it turns more unsettled again as we go through the course of the second week of May. Quite remarkable how we're managing to time this Azores Ridge just over the days of a bank holiday weekend. That doesn't happen very often in the UK, but I suppose after all of the cold and wet weather we've had recently, we deserve a little bit of good luck from the weather gods. So this is how the surface temperatures are looking for today. A cold day coming up, temperatures in the east just 7-8 degrees, in the west up to around 10 or 11, but it is a very chilly day to say the least. And then as we go through into Monday, well, a really cold day in the southeast. Look at that with the torrential rain. Temperatures in the southeast barely reaching 5 degrees Celsius. So torrential rain, gale force, northeast wind, temperature no better than 5 degrees Celsius. It's going to be grim tomorrow for East Anglia and southeast England. Temperatures in the west again up to 10 or 11 degrees. But by Tuesday, we're starting to see a bit of a recovery in the temperature. Probably still a bit below par for early May, to be honest. But 12 or 13, especially in the southeast, after such a grim day on Monday, will feel quite a bit better. That's Wednesday, so again, temperatures in the south up to possibly 13, 14 or 15 degrees, so a little bit milder there. Up in the north, still quite cold. Then we get through to Thursday, and you'll notice gradually the yellow, which is the milder temperatures, beginning to expand across the country. So by Thursday, temperatures in the south could be up to 15 or 16. In the north, just about scraping up into the low teens. And this warming trend then continues into the end of next week. This is Friday next week, where we are finally seeing temperatures back to around average. So early May, you would expect temperatures to be reaching 16 or 17 degrees in the southeast. And that's broadly where the GFS is taking the temperatures to by the end of the week. And they actually go warmer than average next weekend. So by Saturday, we're seeing the temperatures in the east go to around 20, 21, 22. This suggests 23 possible for central London. So going into the low 70s Fahrenheit through the course of next weekend. And that warmth just increases a bit more as we go through to Sunday. This is a week away. Maximum temperatures next Sunday afternoon forecast to be into below 20 Celsius. You can normally add a degree or two on from these temperatures. So it's possible we might get close to 25, 77 Fahrenheit next Sunday afternoon. But certainly looking much, much warmer by next weekend. By the time you get through to Bank Holiday Monday, it looks like we begin to cool things down. Still very warm, or quite warm down in the south, but from northern England to Scotland and Northern Ireland, it is turning quite a bit cooler there. So Bank Holiday Monday might be a transition day from those very warm temperatures to something cooler. ECWF looking like that. So again, building up the Azores Ridge as we go through to the end of the week, and that takes us into the bank holiday weekend under this nice ridge of high pressure. The wind is coming from a southeast direction. That's dragging warm air up from off the continent. So loads of dry and warm conditions through the bank holiday weekend. That's Bank Holiday Monday. It looks like could be a super Bank Holiday Monday with loads of dry and warm weather expected. And unlike the GFS, actually up to day 10, which is Wednesday the 9th of May, the ECM is maintaining that ridge, not breaking it down, although it is weakening a little bit by day 10. So if we could roll on another 24 hours, I suspect we would see the Azores Ridge beginning to break as this low pressure starts to develop from the northwest. But up to day 10, it's actually keeping things pretty dry and warm. So that's a little bit more extended with the dry and warm conditions. Finally, the built ensembles from Holland look like this for the ECM WF model. So again, starting off pretty chilly to cold over the next couple of days, but then we have this warming trend appearing through the course of the second half of the week and into the weekend. Next weekend, we see those temperatures going up to or above 20 degrees Celsius for the belt, probably dropping back again quite soon afterwards. So again, same idea as a GFS, really, starting chilly in this period. We get a few days of much warmer weather, managing to coincide it with the bank holiday weekend, and then we cool things off as we go through into the second week of May. So that's what we're looking at. We're going to have some really inclement weather in the southeast tomorrow. If you're out and about in parts of East Anglia, southeast England tomorrow, take your waterproofs with you. It's going to be a very wet and cold, miserable day. Improvements are on the way. Bank Holiday Monday is looking really decent with high pressure dominating. A lot of dry and warm weather, and then as we go beyond that, probably through the second week of May, turning things cooler and more unsettled. So maybe only a few days of drier and warmer conditions, similar to the warm-up we had around 10 days ago. Have to make the most of it, because probably not going to last all that long, but of course we'll wait and see on that. I didn't mention at the start of the video that we've also released the 7th Analogues update for the summer of 2018. That video is here on the homepage at the moment, so scroll down the page a little bit and you'll find it above the snow desk. That video will be placed on the summer updates and forecast page later on today, probably around 7 or 8 o'clock this evening, with a written summary to go with it as well, so you can have a read of that by the time you get through to this evening. So I didn't mention that at the start of the video, so I thought I'd better mention that before I sign off. Hoping to bring you the latest update for the bank holiday weekend sometime later this afternoon as well, so have a look out for that. And it just gone 30 minutes. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.